Hey there, it is Rapmark here,
And Firedragonfly.
and together we are back. We are doing
Mhm.
our rapid fire review
Indeed.
of It Part 2. Before we do, let's premise that we know it's been a while.
Yeah.
There have been issues. I'm gonna do another vlog at some point in the future, hopefully by this week or next week, it kind of explain what's going on, what my
Indeed.
plans are, and all that. But yeah, it's been way too long. And
Hmm.
but yes, I'm hopefully going to keep these going for a long time.
I agree.
Indeed. All right. So going on with it. So we're not doing spoilers right now. So
No.
um, I'll be honest. I honestly think I went in there with way too high of expectation for it.
I can definitely see that. I mean, kind of in a way I did too, but
Yeah, like we
overall,
walked out of there and you were literally real ready to give it a 9. Are you still really willing to do that?
mm, I think at this point I'm almost ready to give it like at least an 8. So
Okay, so
at this
pretty much
point,
my score because I was
yeah.
I loved it.
I
Like
did too.
honestly, I absolutely loved it. I was fairly critical in spite of absolutely loving the first one. I gave that one an 8. You gave it a
I gave it
10.
a 10
Yeah,
because I
you
just
gave it a
loved
10 out of 10
it.
in
Indeed.
spite of like its storytelling issues and all
I didn't care at that point.
that.
Truly, to be honest, what was going on, and I just absolutely loved the story. So I liked how they brought it together, and it was just okay. It was great for me.
Indeed. So,
So,
um, like for me, I liked. Oh gosh, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but all right. So let's go with the pacing. I like the adult parts
yeah,
a lot. I just wish they didn't always go back into the kids' parts. Like it sometimes threw it off a little bit. Like some of them were relevant, but there were a few of them that kind of just it took me out of it for a minute, and I had to just like, okay, all right.
I can see that.
Like, how did you feel
Truly,
about the
I
transitions between young and old?
myself, I just thought it was technically interesting myself, kind of in a way, because it kind of brought their stories again from when they were children, bringing it to the idea of what's going on, what they're needing to do, and pretty much get to the point where they need to be at that point. But it was just also seeing them from when they're younger to when they're adults, and I'm sorry, of course, they did a wonderful job when it came to the casting because
Oh yeah, the casting.
definitely was
I
awesome.
have no complaints about the casting. The casting, I think, was
Great.
solidly dead on. I
Yeah.
mean, that you can believe that that's the kids grew up to be these.
These people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not complaining that. What did you think of the chemistry between the characters? Like you loved the chemistry between the kid, and I did too. I thought it was great. What about the adults?
The adults, I mean, I still found it to be fun and interesting still in a way, but again, I still like the idea. I mean, it's bringing it more to up to date nowadays, and I mean, seeing everybody together, it was intriguing. I mean, I don't know if you want to go that far at first, but the very beginning of the movie, where it had nothing to do with technically the characters there at
Yeah,
first.
and yeah, we'll definitely talk
We'll
about
talk
that
about
later
the
in spoilers.
spoilers, but it kind of brought a little bit more reference when it came to going into some of the story for me, anyways, kind of bringing what could have technically have been whatever.
All right, yeah, we'll
But that's spoilers.
yeah, yeah. So, but the chemistry you thought was great.
I still thought it was great. Yeah.
I I thought for the most part it was great. I thought it was a little more clicky. Like I don't think as a whole group they meshed as well as they did like individual people interacting with others, if that makes sense. Like Richie and Eddie, they got like they got on real well.
Yeah. I
You know,
definitely see that.
and then you had the whole like triangle between Ben
Bev,
and Bev and
Billy,
Billy. Yeah, Billy,
Billy,
whatever.
Billy Boy.
I'm just so yeah. I'm used to the TV series.
So okay.
But yeah, yeah. So I mean, it seemed. And then, oh gosh, there was something at the end I want to talk about, but I'm gonna have to save that for spoilers. So yeah, all right. So overall story, like I think, yeah, like story wise, I loved it.
Yeah.
In terms of like Pennywise, what did you think of Pennywise?
I definitely thought his role definitely was really good. Definitely, he was definitely more entertaining. I mean, in a lot of places there.
You thought so? I didn't think there was enough of him, to be honest.
No, I was gonna say
Like,
I don't think there was enough of him, but when he was there, he was very entertaining.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I know they have the monsters, that's supposed to represent it, but I mean, it was at its best when Pennywise was on the screen, like literally, and I was surprised at like how much to the humor side they went to things.
Indeed, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, there were a few places where I'm just like, okay, that's weird, but it entertained me. Like there were points in the movie where people were laughing, like where I was laughing.
It was
even
funny.
You had a few giggles.
It was funny, and of course there was a lot of jump scares, more than just.
I think they relied way too much on jump scares. Like the creepy factor was not fully there. Like it had points. But creepiness was definitely replaced by jump scares. And I think they relied on that way too much.
Indeed. But it's okay. You got to jump pretty much with all of them. It was cute.
There were some I didn't. Because
almost all of them.
Because some of them literally it's just like you could see it coming from the other side of the planet.
Yes, and every time one of those came along, I would quickly go, and grab you.
And I'd just be like, shrug.
But you still were jumping most of the time.
There were some good jump scares. Jump scares.
I didn't jump though.
You never do. Yeah, and so I wasn't fully a fan of that, just because I think it took out, like, especially from the first one. The first one had some legitimately creepy moves. There was one. With the under the bleachers, we'll get into that. But that was him at his best. Like that's the creepy that's creepy Pennywise.
I definitely would agree with that.
Much of the rest of him, he was goofy. It was hilarious.
It was good, though. I did really enjoy the humor part of it too. But I'm like, I think about the older one. I'm like, definitely I was much younger. And the first time I saw it, I was very little. And yes, it scared the crap out of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
But knowing what I'm going to expect kind of a little bit more, but seeing the more humorous side of it just kind of brought a different effect to it, and I thought it was entertaining. So.
Okay, yeah. Like, I found that there were some parts, though, that, like, they were definitely misshot, and some things that just shouldn't have been in there. Like, there's a scene at the beginning, like, I'll get to that, and again, in spoilers, and also, at the very, very end. There were just some parts that, it's just like, why did you spend so much time on this? Like, I get the point they were trying to make with both those parts, but it seemed like it was way too much.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, so.
Yeah, and the CGI. What did you think of the CGI?
For the most part, I mean, there was interesting parts, definitely to it, but, the CGI, it did have some areas where it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
With everything there, but for the most part, for what I was seeing, I was okay with it, but there was definitely some interesting areas. It was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Indeed. And, like, what about their motivations? Like, oh, God, where is it going with that? All right, so anyway, like, Mike brings them into their, with talk this, like, they changed it. They really played that up. Like, they touched on it in the book, not really in the TV series, but they really hammed it up this one.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think of that? And the fact that, there was, like, they'd forgotten everything, and yet they come back.
Hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, they moved away, and I mean, of course, they've forgotten quite a bit of it. I mean, I do remember from the other one. I mean, they did.
Like, that was because of
course,
it,
forget.
though. Like, that was because of it.
Well, I get that, but it was just like the idea of them moving away. They've grown up kind of in a way. They've kind of put things behind them. Just the horribleness of what happened to them during that time kind of makes a little sense. I mean, in a way, just kind of changing it up a little bit. But overall, I mean, it was all right, but I can't say it was necessarily.
All right, so
great.
so you're defending that,
I mean,
essentially.
I could see it. Again, I like the different aspects that they kind of went with it. A lot of it. Too.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. Like, he essentially, after being defeated, whatever he puts inside them, that's slowly leading them to kill themselves, or like just going nuts until eventually they kill themselves. Like, and then, like, he wants them to forget and then just be as successful as possible and never come back. And now all of a sudden he just wants them to come back, just for like revenge. Like, I mean, I get it. It's, I guess, the serial killer mentality. Just like the one that got away, I gotta get him.
Yes.
But it seems a little weird.
I had to get you too.
But no, it seems weird. It seems weird for Pennywise, especially since like he could literally live under this town, feeding off of it till the end of eternity.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet he
has to get them.
Yeah, and then for this ritual, like they have to acquire tokens. That's and like literally there is a couple tokens where he literally just gives it to them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? There were some weird things, but I loved Bill Hader's like expression of Richie, because he was just so hilarious.
Yeah.
He was just constant joke after joke.
Indeed.
And the best part is just like, because of this thing, it's just like, we've got to separate. When he's just like, no, we heard it last time, we defeated it last time because we were together. It's just like, why are we doing this? Because of the Indians. It's just like, why? It seemed very contrived, and it kind of drove me crazy.
I just found it funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there were definitely some contrived things, and then they go around with the whole thing of, I get he's trying to scare them and all that, but I mean these are the people that defeated him before. It's just like he could have killed them all at certain points.
Yeah.
And he already sent some henchmen. What the hell's his name? Bowers. Yeah, Bowers. Yeah, Henry Bowers to like kill them. It's just like, if you're gonna do that, like why are you bothering to play this out? Especially when they're getting that close. It's there are some things that just, and then oh my god, like I loved it, but it did have some issues.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and figure out like our ratings. So I gave the first one an 8, again mostly because of storytelling issues. I think there were some pacing issues, and I mean to some certain extent I can forgive that. I mean the book is like freaking this huge, and the miniseries itself was 9.5 hours. I mean, that's a lot of stuff, and this is a 3-hour movie, and then the other one was also about 2.5, 3 hours. That's 6 hours worth of movie. So yeah, a few things got cut off, lost in translation, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it had the same. Like, there were things that I thought it did better, and some things that I thought did worse. Like, the story I think was about the same. I think the humor was way better. I think the chemistry between characters was... Between the kids, it was still legit. I mean, the fact that they filmed all that stuff and held on to it for this one. The ones between the adults were still good. Like, I know they were still good, but it seemed more clicky, if that makes sense.
I can see that, but again, doesn't bother me.
I know. So honest, and just because like the CGI,
Yeah.
they relied on it a little too
Too
much here, I
much.
think here. But I mean, there was some good CGI,
Oh
but
yeah.
there was also some really like hokey CGI. So I mean, all that, and largely due to the ending, which I'll get into in spoilers.
Spoilers.
It left me a little underwhelmed. Let's just say that for this segment, and so I'm going to give it a 7, which is still a good movie. You know, I'm not one of those that if it's less than an 8, it sucks ass. You know, that's not how I've ever done it. You know, 5 is average. You know, once you get to like 3 and 2 and 1, you know, those are garbage movies.
Yeah.
You know, or like so bad they're good movies, depending. You know, a 7 is still a great score. I still thought it was a great movie. I loved it. I did like the first one a little bit better, and I think it could have used more Pennywise the Clown,
Yeah.
to be honest, and that's largely why.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand that. I do think it definitely should have had more Pennywise in it too. But I mean, overall, again, for me, I mean, yes, I'm weird, and I absolutely loved the first one. I gave it a 10 out of 10 just because I just couldn't couldn't help it. I enjoyed the fact that yes, they brought it back, and it was entertaining enough for me that I'm like, no, it was too good for me to give it a lower score than that. This one, I mean, I was definitely very kind of torn because I mean the first one you had more of the horror, scary feel in a lot of areas, but this one definitely yes had a lot more of the humor feel in a lot of areas, and then of course the jump scares. But I thought it just brought an interesting effect to the story that we're all technically kind of used to, but kind of added a different feeling to it, which was interesting and kind of fun to me. So for myself, yeah, I still think it still had some problems there, but I will just go ahead and settle for an 8 myself.
So an 8. What was the biggest problem for you?
I mean, the part that I mean at the very beginning, I mean, I can technically, like I said, later on, I can kind of see where it could have been brought in, why they would have kind of done something with that, but they kind of went with it a little bit longer than what I think they really needed to. Yes, some of the CGI was technically a problem in some areas, but again, overall, I mean, I still think it was great in that, but there was just certain things I mean they could have done without. Too.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. So that's it for this segment. So we'll be back in a bit with spoilers. So we will see you then.